Hello and welcome. My name is JesseMcDesign. Today we're going to be slightly redesigning this bag I made a few months ago into something I'm more happy with. Let's get started. Before we start, if you could hit the like button and subscribe. You can always unsubscribe later, but it really helps me out. And if you want to see daily progress updates on the projects I got going on and ideas for future projects, you can give my Instagram a follow as well. But today we're going to be revisiting this tote bag that we made a few months back. I've been using this one as my personal, going back and forth to my day job, and it works great. I have zero issues with it, but there is a couple little things I want to change up before I start making more of these and trying to sell them or whatever. And so the first thing is the base of this bag. I like having a leather bottom, at least the very bottom, that makes it very sturdy and durable, which is great. But I think this little bit of a wall going around the side is a little bit overkill, and it takes a whole lot to sew all this up by hand because you can't really fit this in a sewing machine. At least I can't at this moment. So I'd have to hand sew pretty much this whole leather base, which just takes a long time to do. I should be able to knock out this whole bag in like a couple hours. It's fairly simple. And then another thing I want to change up is these handles. I like the length, it's great, but I want to bring them in a little bit tighter because if you see here, it's bundling up the bag when you hold it. So I want to just bring those in to have the bag be able to stay open a little bit easier. And that's a simple adjustment, is just simply measuring that out slightly different when we get there. But when I ordered the canvas for this bag, I got enough to make two, and when I was measuring it all out, it's actually almost a perfect amount. I had to take only a couple inches off the one side. So what we got here is, this is going to be basically our bag. I have the top edge already bent over. That's going to be our top face edge, and that'll be nice and clean, just so it's not a raw edge, and we'll double up our stitch on that. I also went ahead and cut out our straps, and I didn't think about this till after I cut these straps. But since we're not going to be doing this wall on the base, I'm going to have the strap go slightly under the base just a little bit, and then we'll do we'll have our bottom stitch go over the strap, as well as it's all sewn together along the face of the bag as well. So what we're going to do now is zip through the main portion of this bag. It's super simple, and then we'll start figuring out where we actually want these straps, and then we'll get those sewn into place. And then we'll start trying to figure out the base and these other little details. So what we got now is a closed off inside out bag. We got our open up here. I ran a double stitch across the top, like a 1/4 inch apart, and then I ran the side stitch twice just to make it extra strong. And that's what I did with this bag, and it seems to be holding up just fine. I don't think it'll ever come apart or anything. But what we're gonna do now is turn this thing inside out so we have a better idea of what we're working with. It should be the exact same size as this bag, so. Alright, so what we're going to do now is do like a sort of like a paper bag type fold, where we're going to figure out our width of the smaller side, which is right about 6 3/4 actually. And I'm just doing quick reference marks. This doesn't have to be too crazy or too perfect either. But I am following measurements I took last time, so I want to be able to make sure that everything's going to work out fine. And if I decide to make a lot more of these, I can just take those measurements and just knock these things out. Now what we're going to do here is we have our weird corners going on, and for the other one I think I flipped them up, and that's why I put those side panels on to kind of hide that. So for this one, we're going to fold it to the base, and what that's going to do is, one, make this side panel real nice and clean. You won't see any of that. It'll make it look a lot nicer. And then two, that'll help give an extra little bit of padding on the bottom, as well as our leather piece that will actually cover this and make it that look clean as well. But we're just making sure this is all nice and nice and even. You want to get these folds pretty crisp. And what I'm going to do now is actually fold this up. Okay, now that I'm happy with where this is at, one thing with fresh waxed canvas is you can really crease it and get it exactly where you want it to be, which is really nice. And then obviously as you use it, it gets nice and floppy. Like this barely wants to stay stiff anymore, which is nice. I'm happy with how this is looking. We got this folded up, you know, like a paper bag type deal, and that's just helping with making sure everything's aligned properly. We got our flaps folded to the bottom side, and what I'm gonna do now is just put a couple dabs of glue on these little flaps. It's not gonna do much because of the waxed canvas. You know, the waxiness doesn't really makes stuff like glue just wanna peel right off. It's like you know, but it should be enough to just kind of hold these in place while we figure out all our other little things. And while that's setting, we're gonna flip it over and start to figure out these straps. So before we figure out where these straps go, we're gonna actually just do a simple fold in half for a couple inches. You can kind of see my marks there. And we're just gonna stitch this to create a nice little handle piece, similar to what we got going on here. It just creates a nice place to grab a nice little handle. Now we got our little handles made. Now we're gonna figure out where we're gonna lay these down on this bag itself. On the original bag, they were about 8 inches apart, and I wanna bring it into about probably 5. So I mark the center, and then I mark 2 inches, 2.5 inches out from the center point, and that's gonna give us our spot. And what we're gonna do is simply lay this out with enough on the bottom to wrap it around and be able to hide that little bit with our our leather piece that we're gonna be putting on the base. I'm gonna leave about 3/4 of an inch to an inch overhang on the bottom, and that should give us just enough material on the top to create a nice little handle, as you can kind of see there. And again, this doesn't do much, it just kind of tacks things in place. But I'm going to be using just some basic super glue just to kind of help hold things in place, so that we can then go to the sewing machine and we're going to sew down each side of this to hold it super securely in place. Alright, now what I'm going to do before I do the base, which is going to be the most annoying part, is I'm going to figure out these top little brace strap pieces. And you can kind of see on this bag here, I have little pieces going across the strap itself, kind of gives the strap a little extra support. And then I have this little strap in the middle, which holds kind of the little buckle strap I have going on here. And I'm going to keep all of this, but since I moved the straps in tighter, I think I'm going to be able to make this whole strap out of one piece instead of 3 separate pieces, and that'll save on 4 pieces of rivets hardware, and that'll just make this whole thing come together a little bit easier. And I just want to make sure I have enough room on each end of this. So I got just the back end of a rivet piece, and I'm just gonna kind of place that in there and make sure we have enough space to fit that in there. Alright, I went ahead and measured the base and got all my leather pieces cut out and dyed. You saw me do like a tan first and then the black. I noticed when I do just black it kind of looks gray, so I like to do like a medium brown on below the black, and that way if it gets like scratched or scraped or anything, it doesn't come through super, you know, the tan coat. I also went ahead and glued down those little extra bits of the straps, kind of help hold those in place, so when we put the base on, it'll go a lot smoother. But now I'm gonna let these leather pieces dry along with this glue, so it'll be easy to work with on the next step. So now that we got all our leather pieces cut out, dyed, and lotioned up, I went ahead and punched out all the holes as well and stamped all my little stamps in every little piece. So now we're gonna do the easy pieces that are just riveted on. It's gonna be super quick. And once we get that all done, we're gonna glue the base onto the bottom. Again, just to help hold it in place. It's not gonna really be for super like adhesion, but just to keep it in place so when we stitch it, it's not like moving around and getting all crazy. So let's go ahead and do that so we have time to let this cure in place. Alright, so there you have it. I'm super happy with the slight level changes I made. It makes it easier to make, makes it a tad bit faster. The hand stitching of the leather base just takes a few hours. It kind of is what it is. I can't really get my sewing machine in here to do this with the sewing machine, so it just has to be done. One other thing I made note of while I was doing it on my little plans, I always keep a little sheet of everything I do. I still have to extend the handle straps just slightly. All of these were still, I was still able to stitch over them when I did the hand stitch to really secure them in place, even though they're stitched all the way up the bag. But they were very close. One was very close. I had to like re-glue it just to make sure. And then moving the handles in a little bit tighter. Nicer is a nicer hold for carrying, and for if you put anything in here, it's not gonna like cinch up the bag really weird like that or anything. And then I also, by doing that, I was also able to make these straps just single pieces instead of, you know, 3 separate pieces. It's a lot cleaner, it works out really well, and also saves me a couple rivet hardware, which is nice. You know, every little penny counts when making these things. You don't want to overcharge people or anything. But with that being said, if you're interested in something like this, you can check out my website or my Instagram. I also have an Etsy page. Most of the things I make on here are usually up for sale if they're not something for my personal. So go ahead and check those out. But if you like what you saw, hit the thumbs up. It really helps. If you want to see more, hit the subscribe. I'm always over here doing something creative, making wearables, accessories, art, furniture, decor. Who knows? Leave it in the comments below what I should build next. See you on the next one.